Right now, we've got the Steve Fest concert series tomorrow night, and that's Copperbox and Still Friends. Let's have some Still Friends right now. Friends, and you'll be able to hear them tomorrow night at the Punta Gorda History Park. That's at 501 Shreve Street, 7 o'clock till 10. It's $15, and you get Still Friends, and then you get Copperbox. And let's hear what Copperbox sounds like. Yeah, that's Copperbox, and they'll be playing for your pleasure tomorrow night, and we'll be dancing. I saw Chris Porter talked about the Steve Fest concert series and how sometimes it's just a little bit of foot tapping and swaying, and sometimes you move the chairs out and you dance your feet off. Well, tomorrow night will be a dance your feet off kind of time with Copperbox.
I just want to bring up one thing, that it is bring your own. So if you have coolers, you want to bring your own drinks and food, you're more than welcome to do that.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, Larry found Copperbox when he went up to Nashville and brought them down here for the Steve Fest concert series. Thank you for what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Gordon Martin. Mac dropped a couple of newspapers off in my vehicle the other day, and I didn't quite know why. I thought it was interesting. It was the Seminole Tribe newspaper of March 30, 2012, and turns out in the back of section A is a Steve Blackwell story by Peter Gallagher, special projects reporter, and it got all of the lyrics for Osceola, song lyrics by Steve Blackwell, and the story in it says that the historic Seminole war leader Osceola is the subject of numerous American folk songs. The late great Florida folk singer Steve Blackwell, a Punta Gorda educator and musician, became enamored with Osceola during his studies of Florida history and wrote this song in 1992. It was the third song the influential writer ever wrote and the first composition on Florida history from a man now legendary for his Florida history and environmental tunes. Steve Blackwell. There's a whole big article in that thing. And the lyrics of this. Remember, Osceola, this is where one of the times when the United States military didn't do right. I mean, came in under a flag of truce and they captured him anyway. The might makes right, and end justifies the means ended up being the winning concepts of the time. But history is written, and things about history are intended, as Tacitus put it back when he was at Roman times, and where we come to the word tacit, a tacit understanding. That's where you quietly let things go. But what that means, and what Tacitus said, is that he held on to his thoughts so that he wouldn't get killed for them during his life, and he wanted them published afterwards so that history would know the truth about what things happen. And so it's biding one's time in order to let the message get out. Well, this history of Osceola and the lyrics by Steve Blackwell, all great souls in Florida's past, one patriot's name will always last. Osceola fought for years to avoid the trail of tears. But born up north, the Red Stick Creek, came to Florida seeking peace. Former slaves, the runaways, were his friends for all his days. Osceola, Osceola, feel the power in his name. Osceola, Osceola, Seminole they could not tame. General Clinch, he did his best to move the Seminoles all out west. Osceola gave his life, stabbed the treaty with his knife. Osceola, Osceola, feel the power in his name. Osceola, Osceola, Seminole they could not tame. Osceola came in peace. White flag showed the fighting ceased. But Jessup, may God curse his name, captured the one they could not tame. Outrage and betrayal, the treaty unsigned. Though he came with a flag of truce, U.S. justice was blind. Osceola, Osceola, feel the power in his name. Osceola, Osceola, the Seminole they could not tame. Could not tame that Seminole. Well, you know, the Seminoles came down because there was a vacuum, because the people that had inhabited this peninsula were really wiped out over time through slave raids by the Yamasee, who were the mercenaries of the English up on the eastern seaboard, and many were captured. It was the time the Calusa had eschewed European things. They didn't take the guns and the knives and the metal things, and they didn't trade with the Spanish or other Europeans, and that was a strength for them for hundreds of years, but it ultimately became their demise because the Yamasee were armed and were sent down on slave raids, and they just decimated the population, which was already quite decimated by disease, and so through that process there ended up being nobody here that had been the indigenous people. And so then when U.S. interests, when European settlers in the eastern seaboard started pushing and demanding that they have more and more land and that the savages be excluded, even the ones, the Cherokees, that tried to adopt and become and take on and assimilate, they drove them out. And as a matter of fact, the people who had been the compromisers and the assemblers and that wanted to work with got absolutely cut off at the knees, and all of those people, so many of them got driven away, and some found their way back and some didn't, but it was they were trying to get everybody out there, and that was what was going on with why the Seminoles got here and Osceola was here. But he wasn't a native here, he came from up north. Well, you know,